Tell us more. What is the highlight today?
Well, we have a packed agenda, as you know. You've already talked about some of the things that are happening, but the highlight of the afternoon, this grey, wet, autumnal afternoon here in London, is going to be this meeting in number 10 there between the President and the UK Prime Minister David Cameron. We are anticipating that the President will be walking through in just a few minutes from now. What he's got in front of him is a table laden down with agreements, laden down with deals. As I say, you mentioned one or two there. Perhaps one that might be of interest to many in China would be that the Prime Minister here, David Cameron, is going to be announcing later today a reduction in the price of a visa for tourists. Now, this is clearly Britain trying to get into the ever-expanding growth of the Chinese tourism business. Over the last 5 years, it has expanded from some 85,000 Chinese visitors to the UK a year to now 185,000. Now, let me pass you over to the President, who is just arriving live here at 10 Downing Street. David Cameron on the doorstep, and there he is. The two men, of course, will shake hands and smile. Gentlemen, any words for CCTV, Chinese World Television? No words for us, but they'll have words for each other. And the photographers here, of course, are all very keen to get more shots. There they go. Now, as you were saying earlier, one of the biggest deals on the table is this nuclear power plant in Somerset, in the West Country of England. Chinese money making it possible and giving China some 1/3 ownership of a nuclear power station in Britain, the first nuclear power station to be built in Britain in 2 decades. And the significance of that is not just this one massive project costing in the region of $35 billion to put up and coming online in 10 years from now, but that it will kick-start at least 2 more nuclear power stations in Britain, both of which will be financed by, built by and use Chinese technology. So there will be two projects, 2 nuclear power stations in Britain that will be exclusively Chinese once this one in Hinkley Point in the west of England gets underway. But that's the big deal on the table this afternoon for these two men who you've just seen live go in for the start of their talks.
Well, they didn't talk to us back then, but they have a lot to talk about today, I understand. You mentioned easier visa procedures and also offshore R&D center in London. And also mentioned the nuclear deal. Is that a done deal already, or there are other possibilities that they may not announce it this time around?
Well, do you know what? I've been following that story very closely for about 6 months now, and I was of the opinion that they wouldn't be able to get it. The complexity of it such that I believed they'd actually struggle to get it together in time for this meeting between the President and the UK Prime Minister. I'm told that they managed to finalise the details of it a matter of hours before President Xi arrived in Britain. So it was right to the wire because of the vast complexity of not just the project, not just the complexity of building a nuclear power plant, but also you've got here 2 governments involved. EDF, the French energy giant, is owned by the French government. You've got the French government involved. You've of course got the Chinese government involved, and pushing from the sidelines as well the British government, very much in favour of the deal going ahead. But so bringing it all together was a real tightrope walk. They did finally get it together, but what is signed here later is not the final agreement.
Okay.
There will be discussions later on. You're absolutely right to hint that it could all break down, but at the moment it is looking positive.
When do we know whether agreement has been made or not? What is the timeline for all these deals?
Well, the timeline for all of the deals, and we're talking about something like, they're talking about 150 various business deals. They're spread out across the economy through industries like aviation, there's infrastructure agreements, rail, for example. There's the high-speed rail trains that the British government is trying to push through here, and the Chinese train manufacturers are bidding to work on that. There is aviation. The President, will be going to Manchester on Friday, where he will be viewing Manchester Airport, where there is a huge Chinese investment. So it's spread right across. The total value is something in the region of $45 billion. The number of jobs they're estimating it will create is in the region of 5,000. So a vast number, specifically on Hinkley Point, the nuclear power station. That, we might not know the final details of that, and I'm told the agreement is about 250,000 pages long. We might not know the final detail on that until the end of the year.
All right, thank you so much, Richard, for your reporting from 10 Downing Street in London.